Good afternoon, everybody, and welcome to episode 158 of ICB TV. And particularly today, it's Thank Furlough, it's Friday once again. We're coming to the end of that title, as we've said so many times. We've got to start coming up with other things. And until members give us a sensible version of what F should stand for, I think we'll probably stick with it for a little bit longer. But anyway, we'll work on that. A bit like buses, we come along, not at all, and then we come along twice. So not only have you had two of me this week, obviously this is the second time with the inimitable Jackie Mount. Hi, Jackie.
Hi, Gary. Hello, everyone. Nice to be back again. It seems a long time ago. Of course not. So yeah, welcome to Thank Furlough. It's Friday.
You had a very successful Tuesday by looking at the numbers, at least. I mean, if numbers are anything, and we are bookkeepers, so numbers must mean everything, and they're good numbers.
Yes, I've got a couple of things to say about Tuesday, just a one top-up thing, but so really to thank everyone who contributed to putting that together, going to help me with that, but also the number of members out there who are already doing partially exemption VAT and who came up with some really, really good ideas and suggestions. So thank you to everyone who contributed on Tuesday. It was very, very useful. I've had quite a lot of feedback from it since then as well. So yeah, that was good. Thank you.
So how are we looking in the moment? Have you got much on this week? We seem to fluctuate a little bit between madness and sort of some form of calm.
Yeah, it's reasonably calm this week. There's a few things come out. Firstly, just to go back to the technical Tuesday, on the presentation, I did a calculation on working out the percentage when there were sale of assets involved. And thank you very much to the person watching who queried the formula, because actually the one I'd used was wrong. So I have to put out an apology. There was a mistake there will be a mistake in the recording, but I have corrected it on the slides that have gone up to attach to that. So if you want to look at the actual figures, look at the slides, they should be up there now. On the tax agent page. So as I say, thank you to everyone. Thank you for the feedback that's come back since. I have to say it was all very positive, so that's always good. Couple of things have come out of HMRC this week. If you get an email about the tax agents link, tax agent number 87 was out this week, and I just want to bring up one thing that's on that's been raised, because I know it's been raised on the forums by a number of members. There's been a bit of a correspondence thread going, and it's to do with the application for the agent services account. Now, what it says in agent 87, if you go into that and you follow the link through to the tax agent ASA bit, it does say that you have to apply for an agent services account to HMRC in writing, which, yes, on the face of it, is a backward step, considering this is all to do with making tax digital and digital everything else. But I just wanted to pick up one little bit on that. You can apply for an agent services account online, but you have to have your agent online account first. And once you've got that set up and you have a client operating through that account, then you can actually apply online. The applying in writing for the agent services account is only if you do not have the first account, and then you do have to put it in writing, and that's the point at which they have to check up on your AML supervision. What I think was going to happen with this is I think that's going to go on for a little bit longer yet, because remember at gov.uk, HMRC have two sections and databases running at the moment, and until they link the two together, they're having to run with two slightly old-fashioned disparate systems. And I think the reason that you're having to apply for the ASA account, if you don't have the online account already, is because they haven't yet got that set up on the new system. Now, I am absolutely certain that that will be sorted. It is a pain. We have had a number of people who've had issues with it. If anybody is having problems with the ASA account, do get in touch with me. Werner is on to this with us. Hopefully the member that we've spoken to in the last 2 weeks, we've now got sorted, and that's working. So anybody else got any issues, just get in touch with us and we'll follow that through with you. Now, we have spoken about tax avoidance scams before, and ICB did a couple of replies to consultation documents earlier this year, because there is quite a lot going on at HMRC at the moment about tax avoidance and scams for reducing the amount of tax that you pay. Now, the one you'll probably be most familiar with is the one that's hit a lot of high profile sports individuals and television presenters and that sort of thing. And they've been putting their money into something like a film development company as a tax saving, and it's proved to be not correct to do that, and a lot of people have had to pay an awful lot of money back. Some have won their case. We're not really talking about the people that are going through this with IR35. This is the tax avoidance scam. Now, once HMRC become aware of one of these scams and they've investigated it and they've decided that it is not a scam, but it is a tax avoidance, they issue something called a spotlight notification. So everyone that has been identified and proved to be false, there is a spotlight notification. And actually, I've just heard that in the last few days of the latest one that they've identified, which is spotlight number 58. So it shows you how many of these scams they've already stopped. But this is an interesting one because it could be something that affects micro businesses, because it's to do with directors and false pension schemes. Now, I don't understand it completely because I've only had a look at the overview of it, but it looks as though what happens with certain companies where the director has a pension scheme, they're putting money into a so-called pension scheme, and the company is then putting through the employer's pension contributions, but the money is not actually going to a recognised pension fund. It's going to perhaps a member of the family that set something up that looks as though it's a pension scheme. So basically what's happened is that contribution to the pension scheme from the employer's side will actually be tax deductible against corporation tax. Now, this has been identified that there are some of these scams running. So if you have a small or micro entity and they do run a pension scheme, but it's looking slightly odd, i.e. it's not a pension scheme that you recognise, or you're not too sure where the contributions are going, do have a look at the actual tax avoidance scheme. As I say, Spotlight 58, and you will be able to get it on gov.uk. Now, I don't know anything more about it, except it was literally came out in an email from HMRC this week. So watch out for that one, because that's one of these things which can catch you out, and it may look perfectly legitimate. And I'm not saying that any of your clients, of course, have got to are involved in this, but it is a new one, and it's the first one that I've seen which is really to do with the running of a small or micro business rather than individuals getting involved in saving masses of tax. Going back to the agent services account, in agent update 87, there are some new links to the agent services account and things that you can and can't, or things that you now can do, some revised things and some new things that you can do. So do go and have a look at that, because if you go into the agent update number 87, it will give you some more information on that. I gave you the dates last week about the CJRS claim dates for August and September. Remember, if you're involved in the 5th SAYS grant, that closes on the 30th of September for applying for that. Now, just want to remind you, we have mentioned this before, that if you're doing your a SAT return for a client and they've got a SAYS claim in that, for any submissions on the SAT return that is made after the 20th of June, then what HMRC are doing is it's automatically set up to check what is being claimed in the box for the amount of money received from the SAYS grants against what HMRC have already paid out. And I have mentioned this before, but it's worth reminding people. And if it is different to what HMRC, if you're stating a different figure to HMRC, and that's, remember, it's claims 1, 2, and 3 we're looking at, then HMRC will now automatically amend that income figure either up or down and adjust the tax accordingly. If you were on the ball and did a SAT return for your clients, or even for yourselves, say, before the 20th of June, that's taking a bit longer because they're now going through and manually checking everyone to check the figures, and they'll be manually checked out. Now, if you've got a query on this and you want to make an amendment to the SAT return, as of this week, HMRC are taking amendments to that figure over the phone. So you don't actually have to go into the tax return and make the amendment. You can do it over the phone. And the other query that's come out on claiming the SAYS grants is if you have someone who's involved in the CIS, Construction Industry Scheme, where they have had CIS tax deducted from their invoices. When you're looking for the fifth grant at your comparable income figures over the last 2 to 3 years, don't forget the figure that you have to quote as your income is the gross invoiced amount for your sales, not the figure after tax. So that actually increases the amount that you would be reporting on the comparative figures. And the only other thing I've got to say is thank you very much over the last couple of weeks, particularly last week when we looked at the change of basis, and also Gary and I, we were talking to you about what our members do, and it's all to do with SAT returns and the MTD and the quarterly returns. I've actually had some very, very useful emails in from members about the sort of things that they do and the sort of links and things that they do with their accountants and what they have to send the accountants. So I just want to say thank you to everyone who's contacted us. It's been very helpful, and we will be using that information. So that's really all I've got today so far, Gary.
Great. Yeah, I did promise a questionnaire. We will be sending one out, but we've written the questionnaire a couple of times. I've got different people to look at it, and everybody seems to think we're asking a slightly different thing. So we're going to be honing that up a little bit before it comes out. We do want to know how you work, how you run your business and anything that's new. I've just been talking to our colleagues across in Canada, funnily enough. It's sort of 8 a.m. in the morning there, or 9 now it will be, but they're struggling a bit out there because, again, they're feeling that bookkeepers are doing more and more and they're not getting the recognition for it. And they're looking at what we're doing over here, certified bookkeeper, and how that's working. And they're sort of, we're sharing ideas. And yeah, it's quite exciting times. Now, their bookkeepers aren't allowed to do the sort of things that we can. So they don't have, they're not able to use the FRS 105 that we're using, or the 1021A. They can't do that. So they sort of come to an abrupt halt at a certain stage, and they're trying to lobby their government to allow them to do other things. And so we're going to be talking to them about that and see if we can help in any way. We are an accredited organisation in Canada because it's part of the Commonwealth, and we're accredited throughout the Commonwealth. So they're calling upon us to see if we can help them, and we're always willing to help. And in fact, normally we have their former chairman, Diane Muller, listening in because we've known each other for a long time, and she still listens in. And I noticed her daughter Bianca is doing, I'm not quite sure what it is, but it seems to be something like this. She's talking to bookkeepers. And whilst on the subject of talking to bookkeepers, I've just been amazed recently at the number of people who on social media are talking about they've just done their exams, whichever one it is, and they're great, they're coming into membership, how excited they feel. Some of the quite difficult stories behind their ability to study, and the fact that they haven't been able to do things quite as quickly as they wanted to, but they're now just overjoyed to be certified bookkeepers. So I've only just thought of this, but what I'll do, I'll get the team when I stop just to start putting together perhaps half a dozen of these people, and let's have a chat and see what it's like, because I know it will be nice for those of you who've been there and done that already to have a look what the new people wearing the t-shirt look like, but also for those people who are still mid-struggle or mid-study and thinking sometimes it just does seem a long way away. It isn't. It's achievable, and don't take my word for it, take the word of some of our new members. It's absolutely fantastic when you actually get it, and you know what you're doing, and you feel confident, and you've got ICB behind you. But the main thing is you get out there, and people want bookkeepers, they really do, but they want good bookkeepers, and that's what our qualifications are all about. And actually, whilst we're talking about that, I'm going to be a bit controversial here. Jackie will no doubt cringe when I mention this. Just to ask you all a question. When we first started the Institute almost 25 years ago, and I'll talk about the celebrations for that shortly, we changed the way that examinations were marked. And I can see her smiling already because we've come up against something this week. Now, in traditional exam marking, if somebody answers question 1, and they answer that incorrectly, and in something like bookkeeping, you then transfer those figures through. If you get it wrong, you're still credited with some marks, because although you ended up with the wrong figures because of your first error, if you use those figures correctly thereafter, you get a certain mark for it. Now, I can see the merit in that, but I've always argued that actually if a bookkeeper makes a fundamental error, gets their VAT code wrong, or just doesn't know how to charge 20%, or, I'm being facetious, but nonetheless, something like that, they're not really good enough to be bookkeepers. And I've had interesting discussions with a lot of people over this, including Jackie and Leslie before her, and Stafford Mitchell, I remember. So this has cropped up again recently because somebody said, I've always likened it to Morecambe and Wise, when Morecambe is playing the piano and Andre Previn comes across and says, "What are you doing?" And he said, "You're playing the wrong tune." He said, "No, I'm playing all the right notes. They may not necessarily be in the right order." Well, obviously, it sounds terrible. And this is always my concern with allowing too much. Now, normally, we can mark without it letting somebody pass. So in the feedback, it says you've done everything right apart from. But there are occasions when somebody could potentially scrape through a pass. Now, I've always been very big on the fact that our pass mark is the highest in the business, and we do this for a reason. And that's because a good 90% of our members want to go into self-employment. And once they've done their exams, and they're very practical exams, we're very proud of that, they always have been, that's it. They're out there. Now, a lot of the other professional bodies, as I've said before, have very low pass marks, some as low as 45%, 50%. But their way of getting people into the profession is different to ours, because they demand that everybody goes through some form of apprenticeship or working with another firm, with a firm of already qualified people. So they've got other influences. Now, bookkeeping is different. The majority of bookkeepers want to go into self-employment because there is a need for that, and you can't really go anywhere else to get that practical knowledge. So that's why we build all the training. If you look at our successful training providers, we work with them for years. I mean, their stuff is really practical. It's down to earth, it's day to day, it's everything you're going to come across. And yeah, it's a difficult one. So my long-winded question is, do you think it's right that somebody who calculates something wrong can actually be forgiven throughout the exam and potentially pass? Or should we say, look, if you make stupid mistakes, you're just not good enough to be, well, not necessarily a bookkeeper, but certainly an ICB bookkeeper? I'd be interested in your comments. And
perhaps I'll come back with my views later. But Gary and I have been around this route, and I have my reasons for my thoughts, and I perfectly agree that our members are excellent. They should be doing absolutely right. But I also have the counter argument to that in certain circumstances, as to what allowance we should give in an exam. But perhaps I'll wait and see what people come back with and say, and then perhaps I'll come in with my 2 pence towards the end of the session. Oh, here they come flooding in, folks.
Well, just before we do that, I've just been given clearance to mention one of these forum posts that I was talking about. Now, this is from Tina Marshall. And she says, to say the last 17 months have been crazy and challenging would be a massive understatement. 2 kids in and out of school, being pregnant, then having Adeline, not sure what that means, supporting friends and family, although to be fair, most of the time it was the blind leading the blind, lots of tears at times, maybe even a potential divorce. Big smiley face, I have to say. But I still managed to somehow pass 7 exams, all first time. Not quite as quickly as I'd hoped, but that's okay. My reason for this massive post is because today I passed my 8th and final exam toward becoming a certified bookkeeper and could not be happy. I am literally on cloud 9. So today, she's earned the right for the rest of her life to call herself a certified bookkeeper. And it says, now it's time to celebrate. Then tomorrow it's the start of a new chapter, self-assessment. I mean,
that's brave. That's fantastic. That's fantastic.
Yeah, I mean, if you are listening in, Tina, give us a call, and we might be able to get you on before we're finished. I'm told. Who does she ring? Just ring the office? Yeah, ring the office, and we're going to see if we can sort of get you on. Ring us on. We don't want to startle you, and if you don't want to, please don't be pushed into it. But we are going to do a bigger program next week, and I hope you'll come on that anyway. Right. Sorry, Jackie, I was interrupting again. You were
No,
trying.
not at all.
You and I have never had any arguments about exams, weren't you?
No, nothing that we haven't resolved one way or the other. You win, some I win, but we'll call it quits. There's a lot of comments coming in, actually. I'll start reading them out. From Naomi. I think ICB is right in setting the bar high, as long as they give good feedback on how the student went wrong. John says, I think it depends on how much very much on how the question is asked, as sometimes there can be an element of interpretation. I have to say, John, I accept what you're saying, but this particular issue that has arisen is not one of interpretation. It was an error. Claire says, I think, skipping up. Claire Martin says, very difficult. Some people struggle with exams and panic leading to errors, but we do need to be accurate to do our job under pressure. So I think we need to keep the bar high. It's a big achievement. And Claire Kendall says, I think exam conditions are very different to working conditions. I think it's acceptable being forgiven for carrying an error through under timed pressure exams. And John said, so getting the process right is a good thing and worthy of some marks. Ultimately, with the pass marks as high as they are, exams do test to a high degree of level. So absolutely good. And Judith says high standards are good. And here's Steve says, and I'm with you, Steve, here, having been an examiner for many, many years, I hate exams. The fact that most are open book is really helpful, as if you're not sure on the topic or your memory doesn't instantly come to you, you can learn and find the answer. That doesn't mean you don't understand the topic, but learning along the way to get an answer. As with CIS, if you have no plans to cover the topic later on the line, you need to know, but may need to refer back at a later time. And an example, I like to think I know how to make a spag bowl. I don't do it very often, but it's helpful to not open a book and check the recipes right before throwing the carrots in. Nice analogy. This particular instance that's risen this week is to do with the incorrect choosing of a VAT code that goes with a sales invoice, and therefore the follow-on VAT calculation was wrong. I perfectly accept what Gary said. However, as you say, in an exam condition, it can be slightly different. And of course, you can, within certain limits, go back and correct the VAT return. And I will put my hand up as one of the people who can say most definitely, I have made errors on a VAT return. So, and the one I made was a biggie years and years and years ago when I started. So, but I do agree. That's why we set them up so high.
Yeah, it is a difficult one, and obviously we're not trying to be difficult. I mean, yes, I am, but I always am. That's me. No, it is just that exam conditions, I absolutely understand. I hate exams as well, which is why I haven't done any for such a long time. But I think that,
it's
something that's important. It really is. I mean, it's like doing your theory driving test and then saying, well, I can now drive a car. You know, no, you can't actually, but you know what to look out for. You know things. But if you were to then go for your driving test and you miss a stop sign, you will fail your driving test. It's as simple as that. And sometimes we have to understand pressure. Now, I know for a fact, talking to members, that bookkeeping is a pressurized profession. Jackie's laughing away here. He's got her own little jokes going on here. It is pressurized. And yes, you've got an open book. You can do this at a time that suits you. You've got a certain time to be able to do this exam. But if you're doing somebody's year-end accounts, or you're doing something for them, or you're doing their VAT return, the pressure is still going to be there. So it's a different pressure, but it's still going to be there. You've still got to be right. And I think the fact is that it is open book, exactly as it will be when you're doing this properly and you're doing it live. But you've got to know where to look in the book, and you've got to have this sort of sense which says, hold on a minute, I think I know something, I think I've read this somewhere, and then you have to find it and get on with it. So we will probably never agree to agree completely on this. And I know that, whenever we discuss it, there's normally half the table that like it and half the table that don't. But It's interesting to see what you think. And I'm very pleased to see that you all like our standards. I have often said that our members, once they get into membership, want the drawbridge pulled up as far as you can possibly pull it. And that's natural as well. But anyway, it's good to...
Okay, there's one here. No, I wasn't laughing at that one. I was sort of chuckling at Claire's comment before, and I love this. And I'm sure he says, please, can you not make it any harder before I pass my level 4? This is a very early exam, I have to say, and it was just it was one of these, but it will be tested again at a later stage, I'm sure. So
yeah, and I think, Claire, don't worry, the 95% pass mark doesn't go up until next month. I'm kidding, before everybody goes mad And can we talk about Gary's instant haircuts on his back screen after this? Yes, okay. I'm going to try and get it cut like this because I think it probably looks better for a CEO if the truth be known. But if I come forward, it is still here. I am still avoiding the barber, but only because I've moved and I don't have a barber down here. So every time I go to London, the guy's overbooked or something or other. And last time I went there, he got COVID, so I turned up and turned away again.
I'd like to pick up on Julie's comment. She says, I also agree that full marked papers should be returned so you can see where you went wrong. Well, actually, if you're not aware, we don't return or give you access to your live papers because they are live. And the way it works is that all of the exams are based around a bank of questions, which are randomly generated when you press start on your papers. So we're never quite sure who's going to get which questions from one of the question banks. But because those are live, we don't actually allow you to see the answers. You do get to look at your mocks, but you do get feedback. So basically what happens on your live, it's the same as on the mock. If you don't get full marks for a question, you will get some feedback in your report at the end on all of your papers. And it doesn't give you the correct answers, but it does identify where you've met the area that you've made the errors in, and also gives you some examples of where you might have gone wrong. But that's about the most we can do. And I don't know whether any of the other examining sections of professional bodies give that feedback, or whether you just get a mark back and that's it and you don't know where you've gone wrong. But we used to be able to discuss papers with you when we did the old, going back many years before we started to use the Rogo system, when we had written papers and we had new papers every time we sat an exam. But now
I mean, the thing was, Jack, if I remember rightly, we used to charge, was it £20 or something other for somebody to speak to a marker, and the marker would then get the paper out. We'd find the paper, put it out, let the marker have the paper back. They would go through it. And the biggest problem we had was that people said, I didn't write that. He said, but it's in front of me here. No, I can't remember writing that. I'm sure you're wrong. And can you send me a copy of it? And it got too much, really. So I think we have to be a little bit more general anyway, because otherwise it just takes up so much time. And at the end of the day, the markers are either right, or if we find there is an error and we do our own checking, we do our own moderation, verification right the way through the process. And if we find that we've asked a bad question or we've marked incorrectly, you will be told. There's no way around that. So, we do go to great lengths to make sure we get this right. And I
have to say, if we do find that there is a question which is causing an issue, it can be withdrawn from the bank and replaced with a new question almost instantly. So Kirsty is saying generic feedback doesn't really help with a specific error. It hurts to have lost 1 or 2 marks. Yeah, I do agree with you. We try to make it as specific as possible. But for example, if you've got 15 expenses to put into a profit and loss account and you don't really want to attach a different feedback to each one. So we tend to give a generic feedback on expenses.
And I've said so many times, Jackie, in those old days, that it wasn't the people that scraped through a pass that queried with us. It was the people who missed 1 mark and wanted to know where that had gone.
Yeah.
So those were the people who did most of the checking.
So quite a lot of that's opened up a nice lot of comments on that one, Gary.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm not sure which way it goes. I'll have to look at them again later and just see. We've got I've got it, we have it is on the chat, isn't it? On the Q&A. That's good. I'm afraid I've been doing a certain amount of grandparent duty this week. I've had a couple of young girls here with me. My granddaughters, only 4 and 6. So I haven't had time to do much film watching this week, so I can't give you much. However, those of you who are desperate to get some sort of filming, the one that I would say I've watched this week you should watch is the Barbie Princess Adventure. Now the acting's a little bit plastic, and it's a little bit hackneyed in a way, but it's a story that's been copied many times in real life, where Barbie takes over the life of the princess, and the princess takes over the life of Barbie. But I'll tell you what, Barbie's changed since I remember my sisters, when I was much younger, having these things. Barbie is now a vlogger, of all things, and she seems to be very well off, living in Malibu, and the sort of lives we all want to lead. And Kent's changed a bit as well. Anyway,
I'm just going to pick up. I'm making no comment about Barbie and the Princess at all. I'm just going to pick up on Helen's point that if candidates want their papers back, there could be a charge for this. Actually, we can't give you your paper back because they're not actually written papers to send back. They're all virtual and online and stored in the ether in our exam system. So it's not actually possible. And we cannot give people access to the exam once they've finished. Because although I know none of our ICB candidates will do this, of course, that then puts it out in the public domain and we can't use the questions anymore once they've been released outside the exam. So, and there is an email from somebody from the London Gospel Music Company.
that's what that is. Right. Okay.
London Gospel Music Company. Hello. Over lockdown, I was able to do papers 1 to 8 in 4 months. Sorry, my name is Isaac. Hello, Isaac. I haven't actually seen you up on our list before, so if you're new to ICB TV on a Friday, welcome.
Have you just Googled Logo Moco?
No.
You know that?
It says on here, it says Logo Muco, London. It's on his...
Oh, yes, I see. Sorry.
On the list there. Yeah.
Yeah, okay.
No, I didn't. So welcome, Isaac.
Yeah, Isaac, we'd like you to come on next week and talk to us. That sounds great. And tell us a bit about the London Gospel Music Company. Yeah.
That would be great.
I mean,
yes, please.
I
We'd love
know
it. We'll
what
be
you
in
do.
touch. We'll be in touch.
Yeah, I think we know what you do, but it would be nice to know a bit more about it. And, why do you want to become a bookkeeper?
I was going to say, and how does somebody in your position decide you want to become a bookkeeper? That would be really interesting. It's a member sort of, input in that. So. Yeah.
Interesting.
And to do 8 papers in 4 months, that's going some. I know we've had some people do them in fairly quick times, but that's good.
I remember when we were doing paper examinations, and I think we only had 4 of them in those days. That was the C1 and C2, and then M1, M2. So there were 4, weren't there? And we had somebody come and sit in our offices and spend the entire day doing the exams. And
yeah.
I'm not sure if you were one of the invigilators, but we all popped
I think I was. I think I was certainly part of it. The poor candidate was there for something like 6 hours.
Yeah.
And we took it in turns to go and sit and watch them do the exams. That was a heavy day.
He was emigrating, wasn't he? If I remember right.
I think so. I think it was M2 and M3. Yeah, he did M2 and M3 in the old days. They were 2 3-hour exams. He did 1 in the morning, 1 in the afternoon. We've actually had quite a few people do that, haven't we, over the period of time when we were doing the old manual exams.
Oh, those were the days. Well, actually, they weren't. I think this online stuff is much, much easier for everybody. The number of people that turned up to an exam late because the bus didn't turn up or something or other, and they had to wait for 6 months to get the next one. It was just silly, really. Right. Okay. Yeah. No. A lot going on here. Lots of people apparently ringing the office saying they'd like to come on next week. So that's great.
Well, I must admit, it would be good. Oh, hang on. Claire says, Gary, you should try your granddaughters on Beat Bugs. They're all based on the Beatles music.
Okay, well, I'll have a look at that. Yeah, absolutely. They are very musical.
I was going to say, probably knowing them a little bit as I do, Claire, they're probably well aware of it anyway. So,
yeah, well, their grandparents, not this one. I can't sing other than in the bathroom to myself. But their grandparents are in the music industry, so that's quite good. Yeah, they seem to be able to hold the tune very well. Right, what else?
Cruella Trolls Crude, says Kirsty.
Right. The thing is, I have watched occasionally some of these very American programs that they watch with these young girls, and they make the Spice Girls look like nuns. I mean, they're really very aggressive and angry, and little girls really like that nowadays. Thankfully, the 2 that I'm caring for this week aren't, but I suppose they could become.
Not so much into films, but more into stage shows. I was reading the reports on the new Anthony Lloyd Webber Cinderella musical, which has had some really, really good reviews this week. And it's Cinderella brought right up to the 21st century. And apparently I was watching somebody being interviewed on one of the new channels last night, and they said, oh, I was watching one of the proms, and they were talking about it. There was a bit of discussion about it. And they said they were intrigued by the erotic male dancing in it. So I think that's one that's on my list, I think. Yes, ladies or gentlemen?
Erotic dancers?
Erotic male dancing, apparently. There's a bit of it in the new Cinderella. So, unless that's just in there to make you go and want to buy tickets, I don't know. So, Isaac, Isaac, we'll be in touch with you. We've got your email probably. We'll be in touch with you.
When we were looking at venues, we did look at one hotel that was right next to the not the QE2, the O2 building. And one of the dates that we were looking at, they said it would be great. You say it's mainly ladies who come to your, women who come to your event. I said, yes, that's right. I said, well, we've got Magic Mike next door at the O2. And I said, well, I don't think they come to the conference somehow. So I think probably we'll miss that one. Anyway, once I'm on that subject, just to reconfirm, Monday, 1st of November, is the 25th anniversary of ICB. And we are having a special gala dinner, combining it with the Luke Awards on that night. It's going to be held at the Londoner, which is a brand new venue. It hasn't even opened yet. It's opening, I think, on the 8th of September. It's on Leicester Square, so it's really in Cinema Land. And we originally had a look round, and I think I showed you around on the camera if you were watching ICB at the time, and it was basically a building site. And we went there this week. It is an outstanding premises. We've got 4 floors, I think we're taking. So we've got different cut-off rooms where people could go and have a drink first, then possibly one afterwards. There's the gala dinner itself, which is magnificent. We're looking at a really, really good feast for you all if you wish to come along. We're publishing the prices very shortly. We're just clarifying a couple of things on that, and we'd love you to join us. Now, there will be lots of dignitaries there as well, people from other professions, because we're obviously celebrating 25 years and we want them to see how well we've all done, you've all done. But we will talk to you. Now, there isn't a conference backing it up this year. Conference itself will be virtual because we didn't really want to make the decision 12 months ago to put down a big deposit, and we're decided this year we had laid plans for an online conference, so that will go ahead, and that's starting the following week, which is Monday the 8th. So it's the 8th, 9th, 10th, 11th and 12th. Different things will be happening. Obviously 12th will be Thank Furlough, it's Friday, or something, whatever we rename it then. Wednesday is Global Razor Cup Day, because that whole week is also Global Bookkeeping Week, so there'll be lots of things going on. There will be some fantastic webinar content there. There'll be lots of discussion. We're improving it, I'd like to think, each time we do it, so next time it'll be even better. But for both events, there's going to be quite a big social link up. You'll be able to talk to everybody else who's going, see who's going to be there. We're lining up several hotels which are literally within walking distance of the venue. The venue itself has some hotel rooms, but if I tell you that at one stage, Agatha Guanaccia, to be organizes all our events, she said, oh, well, we'd like a nice room, please, for some of our VIPs. And obviously, we'd like one for Mr. Carter. How much is the penthouse? When they said it was 25,000 a night, we decided not to bother with that one. And I think the thing is, they are a little overpriced, some of their rooms. The rooms get better, obviously, better priced a little bit further down, but there are some hotels close where you can get a room for under £100 a night. We're going to be working to make sure that there are plenty of rooms available for you. And we'd love to see as many of you as possible down there. And so Monday, 1st of November, that's an absolute definite. Julius, our FD, has already parted with his deposit. And anyway, so that's something to look out for. And then summit, virtual summit again, will be 8th until the 12th, isn't it? 8th, 9th, 8th until the 12th, in assorted ways. But don't forget the Razor Cup Day. We're going to be doing something big about that as well. That again is set to go global, because we've now got bookkeepers all across the world, and we'll be engaging with several of our other countries where we have offices. So starting with New Zealand into Australia, the Philippines, India. We're just opening an office now in India at the moment, taking a little bit longer than we thought, but it's there, everything's there, but the legalities in India are a little bit odd. So yeah, and then we'll finish off with our friends over in Canada and USA. So it's going to be fun. Jackie, how are we doing?
Fine. Isaac, I found your record, so we will be in touch with you. I've got a phone number for you, so that's fine. So thank you for putting that up. I found you on the database.
Yeah, I think the team have been working in the background, because I get these pinged saying, you know, is it that? Yeah. Oh, I found it.
Yeah, I've got him as well, so I can confirm that. So, right. I think. Let me see if I missed anything. Love the film Wild Oats. That's from Julie Holland.
Good.
Let's see. Kirsty wants an ICB outing to go to Magic Mike. You mentioned Magic Mike. ICB outing to Magic Mike.
Yeah. Well, I don't like magicians. Yeah.
So I'm just looking through. I think we've
done. Are we there now?
I think we're done on all the comments. Yeah. Thank you everyone for those. Right.
Well, it's great to have everybody listening in. You know, we've done 100, what is this, 158, isn't it? That's 158. We've done 158 of these, and you're still tuning in, which is great. And each time we get new people who've not been there before, and we get Kirsty, who I think has been to virtually everyone. She's certainly booked for everything that we've done. I haven't quite checked out whether she's been to everyone. I'm going to be doing that. Obviously, you can probably tell me if you have or not, Kirsty. And I will.
I've watched them on catch up. I don't think there's many she's missed. I'll tell you, bless her.
Yeah. The other thing I want to do is I want to do a chat with some of you live on here that are working with family members. Now, I mentioned that because obviously, Kirsty, you work with your sister, but we've got other people. And I mentioned last week, we've got Sylvia Borhill, whose husband Neil has joined the firm. You know, how does it work? Is that a good dynamic? Is it good because you can trust them? Is it bad because you can't tell them off? I mean, I don't know. I can't believe that Sylvia doesn't tell Neil off if everything wrong. Not that I think Neil would ever do anything wrong, but anyway, that's one of those things. Yeah, because, you know, I spoke to a gentleman recently, and he said, my daughter wants to join my firm. Is that okay? I said, absolutely. Why are you questioning it? He said, well, I didn't know whether it might be, you know, two people from the family working in a business are more likely, you know, to look the other way if something's going wrong. I said, no, that's down to the individual. That's not the business structure that's going to cause that. So no, as long as you go to the normal lengths to make sure that, you know, your daughter is well trained, and she's actually studying ICB, so she's going to be, but then she continues in the style to which you wanted to continue, then it's lovely, it's fantastic. And you've got somebody who you know you can trust to hand it down. Well, hopefully you can trust to hand it down to, and or hand it on to, or whatever. But yeah, no, absolutely. Great. So anybody out there that is working with a family member, we may or may not know about you. So give us a call or drop us a quick email to customer services if you'd like to be involved. You know, it's pretty easy going, this. It's nothing too onerous. And, you know, you get 600 or 700 people normally, sometimes 2,500, 3,000 people listening in, but you can't tell they're there. You're just talking to me or you're talking to whoever on here. So we're all very friendly. But we'd love to talk to you because your experiences were really good for other people who are thinking about it partway through, or in some cases they've been doing it for years but hadn't thought about doing something slightly different. So we want to continue with our very personal approach, and yeah. So yeah, please let me have your details if you'd like to come on and say hello. So think we're probably there, aren't we, Jackie?
I
We're all
think
done?
we are. We haven't had any more comments coming in. Thanks, as I said, for all of those of you who have made your comments this afternoon. And to anyone who's done all 3 this week, well done. And, you know, hang on in there. You've done all 3 of our webinars this week.
Yeah. Thank you and goodbye, everybody. Have a great weekend. Go careful and we'll see you next week. Bye.
Take care. Bye.